Hello, welcome to Locked on Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite team in the Bay Area. And today we have another draft profile. We have Daniel Gee on to talk about one Zach Benson. So we're talking about his strengths, his weaknesses, and where he fits in the Sharks prospect pool. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked on Sharks.
You're Locked on Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at Fear the Fin, RIP. And San Jose Hockey Now, I want to thank you for making Locked on Sharks your first listen. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Don't forget Locked on Sharks, your only podcast that covers your team every day. And we're back with another draft profile. So again, we're going to try to do at least one a week for these through the end of the regular season. And then once the season's over, going to dive into more, get more into the kind of we'll know where the Sharks are picking, all that fun stuff, and kind of dive into those late first, probably second round draft pick guys, and wherever the Sharks may be picking. So really fun conversation about Zach Benson, why he would be a good fit for the Sharks, especially if the Sharks are in that 4, 5, 6 spot. Zach Benson's going to be right in that range. So this might be a big one. We come back after the draft. This might be the guy for the Sharks. So without further ado, enjoy. And now we bring in Daniel Gee of EP Ringside to talk one Zach Benson. How are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm great. How about you?
Hanging in there. It's starting to get into the draft season, or your team, like my favorite team, the Sharks, or your favorite team, the Canucks. Draft season seems to come earlier and earlier every year, it feels like, right?
Yeah, it starts in August when you're scouting everyone. So it's basically prospects all day, every day.
Prospects all day, every day. Yeah. So we are going to talk about a very fun, fascinating prospect who looks like for the Sharks right now, Sharks and Canucks could both be kind of looking at this guy. He's, kind of ranked between usually around the 4, 5, 6 spot for most guys. Going to talk about Zach Benson. So before we kind of dig into his strengths and weaknesses, a nice little introduction to him first. Zach Benson is a forward for the Winnipeg Ice in the WHL. 5'10", 159 pounds. So looks like he's got some space to grow in there. 47 games played this year. He has 28 goals, 46 assists with 156 shots on goal. Kind of a late birthday, May birthday, so he hasn't even turned 18 yet. Left-handed shot. So let's start here. What makes Zach Benson such a highly, highly touted prospect?
So when I look at prospects, I like to kind of split up their play between on puck, off puck, and then look at their defensive and transition game and everything. So Benson's good at pretty much everything. Like on puck offense, right? He's a deceptive handler. He looks to create any advantage, and it's all with his brain. Mm-hmm. Everything's with his brain. He blends his sense throughout all his actions. He attacks the triangles of defenders, so the space between the stick and the ice. Very hard to defend against. He uses manipulations to move defenders in certain directions, only to cut across the other. He's not afraid to split up pressure. He uses shoulder shakes, jukes, eye-line misdirection, fake shots, fake passes. He can beat the best WHL defenders one-on-one pretty much. Full range of handles, selects the right ones at the right times, understands space and how to exploit it. And this is all adaptations to combat his relatively poor stride. He has a delay game, which is becoming even more important in the NHL. And when we talk about a delay game, it means not running a puck directly straight into pressure if you end up on the perimeter. It's doing a cut back, a punch turn, looking for someone that's coming through the high slot. When he does have the puck, he's always cutting into the middle of the ice, always. And the reason why that's important is because the middle of the ice is where all the goals are scored. If you look at Benson's goal map, we have access to it on this site called Instat. literally all his goals are within the slot and the hash marks and the crease. Every single goal. There's maybe 4 on the outside, but all of it's from the inside. He's an inside-oriented player. Now, sometimes he's a bit hesitant to shoot in those areas, looking kind of to make like a fancy passing play.
Mhm.
If you think of a pendulum with one side being efficient, one
Yep.
side being inefficient, he sometimes sways on the inefficient side. Just a lot of hope passes, chucking pucks into the crease, looking for chaos. This isn't really a thing that I care too much about because big brain players like Benson, these things kind of see their way out of their game eventually, and they recognize what's a good play and what's not. It's just you have so much volume of touches when you're a top player on a junior team in a junior league that you just start to. I think players just start to do stuff like that. When he is efficient, there's clear passing skill. He layers through defenders, he saucers, slips passes through the triangles, he hooks passes. He's just straight up talented. Off puck is kind of where he also really shines, I guess. Like he supports puck carriers incredibly well. So say he and a teammate are rushing down the ice. He's dropping back to get into a passing lane. He's working into areas just to support the pass. If he sees they're running out of space, he'll draw to the boards so that he's an option. He files the weak side for backdoor tap-ins constantly. Like he is, and he'll switch off into crashes. So despite his size, he plays in high pressure areas. One of the best things he does is if he's actually carrying the puck in, he'll drop it off to the wing and then he'll drive straight towards the net and he'll pull like 2-3 defenders with him, giving his opponents giving his teammates so much space to shoot. And then probably one of the best parts of his game is the forechecking ability. He's an incredible pressure pusher. He wins offensive zone retrieval races despite having a poor stride. Even when he doesn't win them, he has excellent stick work to get second chance offense. He just pickpocket. Like I watched in prep for this, I watched like 3 more games. I think he had like 5 pickpockets in in the games. Yeah. So, and he's skilled enough to translate that right back into offense right away. He crashes hard. Bit limited on the back check because players can separate from him, but he's trying really, really hard. And he does lose a lot of physical battles just because you're 5'10", 160 pounds.
Yeah.
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example though. He was racing Tanner Molendick, who is one of the better skating defenders in this draft. So like he just basically has to exploit every advantage he can to beat this guy to this puck that's sitting on the end board. So what he does is he carries it in, he jukes right to have Molendyk pivot that way, then he dekes the other way across Molendyk's back. So now he has a couple steps on him. Molendyk catches up to him on the circle. So what does Benson do? He drives his shoulder into Molendyk right before they reach the boards, and he gains body position. And that just shows like how intelligent of a player he is, that he can even read that this guy's a better skater than him, and he's going to do everything he can to really win the battle. On the defensive end of the puck, he's a disruptor, pressure pusher. He forces bad decisions on the blue line. He's a great anticipator. He jumps into lanes. He reads board rings. He'll jump in and grab the puck, and he supports battles and breakouts. And I mentioned a couple times, like the biggest caveats to this game is definitely his forward stride. He has good edges, and he can generate some speed if he wheels to the neutral zone and is really cutting hard. But his forward stride is really, really rough. He recovers very wide. Okay. So what happens is every time you recover wide and your skates aren't landing under your body, your subsequent stride is shorter, which means that your legs are kind of just going outwards, and you're not getting enough push off, right? When you're really crashing, and it gets really, really bad as shifts go on and he gets tired. You can almost see him struggle to shift weight from leg to leg, kind of waddling. I would say that, like, to your point about if he's a center or not, I think he kind of occupies the center role when he plays, but he doesn't take faceoffs. I think
Okay.
I looked it up before this. In his WHL career, which is like 3 seasons or 2.5, if you want to look at it that way, he's taken like 70 faceoffs
Okay. So
in his entire WHL career. So people can say like, yeah, I think he's a center because, you know, he supports so well. He's such a great distributor. He's so good defensively. Like he does everything, but he hasn't really played in that role ever. And I think Mitch Brown mentioned it in our internal Slack that he doesn't even think he played it in like AAA or Bantam or anything. I think the reason why we have him at 5 right now behind Bedard, Fantilli, Carlson, and Michkov is just because there's a longer development path. Like a lot of his skating issues are due to a lack of strength. Like, you know, he's got a long ways to go to get to his NHL frame. And the development path is just going to be longer than the top 4 guys. Like maybe Myers Michkov is going to be like, what his ETA is like 2026 or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a longer development path, but he's definitely separated himself, in my opinion, between the guys behind him. But yeah, that's my spiel on Benson.
Okay.
I really love the player. Like he's awesome.
All right, guys, before we continue with Daniel, we talk about kind of where Zach fits in, kind of where his timeline, all that fun stuff. Do want you to know about our friends over at FanDuel. I know football season's over, but that doesn't matter because NBA season we're in the meaty part of the NBA season right now. We're just past the trade deadline. We passed the All-Star. It's now pushed to the playoffs, and now's the perfect time to download the FanDuel Sports app, America's #1 sports book. That's because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 as bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. You can bet on everything from money line to point scores to threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a bigger chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. So don't miss a chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. Yeah, you gave a lot of, so let's kind of backtrack a little bit. You gave a lot of information there. So you talk about his intelligence, right? And that's kind of his big aspect. Other than his intelligence, what do you think is kind of the one kind of more tangible thing that you think is his most NHL ready or NHL like that's going to separate him when he gets to the NHL?
Well,
or do you think he's just going to outsmart everybody?
His tools are all good except for the skating, right?
Okay.
He's not a shoot first player, but he definitely has a shot, and that he works in the soft areas of the ice to get good shooting opportunities. Like he's not wiring it from the circle or anything. It's all going to be contained in the high danger areas. But he's a pace monster. So pace, like a player, like how fast a player is playing. So he has the blend of mental and physical pace, which is essential for high-end players. And he's just always going all the time, despite the stride inefficiencies. He's just like 100% all the time. And it's a separator.
Coaches and GMs will love that, right?
Yeah, right. It's a separator at the end of the day, right? Like you can just see it when you watch him play.
All right.
But yeah, all the tools are good.
Good. Okay. And then, you mentioned his skating, his poor skating. And you mentioned the strength. Is this just going to be one of those things once he continues to grow and develop and mature, his body matures more and working with a skating, coach, that's something that he can improve on? Or do you think there's something fundamentally wrong with it?
It's just mechanics work. At the end of the day,
he's never going to be like Connor McDavid
if we're projecting out like at Elite Prospects, we use a 9-point scale.
Mm-hmm.
So 5 would be league average. And that's all we always do a projection score, not what he is now. Yeah. So our projection score, I think in our database right now is like a 4.5 skating. So just below NHL average. Like he's very physically underdeveloped right now. So it's kind of hard to say, but a lot of the time, stride inefficiencies, you can get get a little bit better.
Mhm.
But to have rapid changes like a Bo Horvat did, where Horvat went from taking like 30 strides across the ice to like 10 or something like that, it's more of an exception rather than the rule a lot of the time. But I don't really have too much worry with Benson, because he's going to find any advantage to make it so that any adaptation, so that is not an issue down the road. And that I truly think that Benson is like almost a correction
Mhm.
on the miss that so many teams had with like a Brayden Point type player, poor skater but highly intelligent. Everyone who played in the WHL at the time was like kind of shocked he wasn't more highly touted, right? Like
Yeah.
that's how I kind of feel. I don't like comps, because they never work out perfectly. But if you're looking for one, like that's a pretty close
Ooh.
example. So it'd be pretty nice. He like I think he'll fit on any team, right?
Mhm.
And like you said, coaches will love him.
So, really quick with the Winnipeg Ice, we know Sharks prospect Mason Bopet's there. We know kind of seeing like how good this Winnipeg Ice team is, right? You have several highly touted prospects on there. Guys like Matthew Savoy, Connor Geekie, Carson Lambos, like guys who are picked very high in the draft. How much is it that he's driving play, or how much is it he's benefiting from having awesome teammates, or is he kind of the guy?
He's a play driver for sure.
Okay.
I haven't watched a ton of ice games, and I do watch players in isolation sometimes, so it's hard to see
Yeah, it's that's
the other
you're
guys.
you're
But
trying to watch one guy, right?
in terms of
Yeah.
impact, when I'm watching,
Mhm.
like Benson plays with Savoy quite a bit in the last viewings I had, and they're both elite players in the WHL, but Benson is driving a lot of play. Like he had this he had this sequence in a game I watched today where it was on the power play. The puck got cleared into the
Mhm.
neutral zone. He was the last guy back, so he had to outskate a Saskatoon player to the puck. So he stepped in front of the player to cut off their lane without interfering, wheeled out of the puck, entered in the middle, did an inside-outside deke on the first defender, then split Molendyke through. The puck went in his skate. He kicked the puck forward to his stick, and then he deked the goalie on the backhand and scored. It's it was like probably one of the best individual plays I've seen this season. And he's just awesome like that. Like it's like just a mountain of details coming together and
Mhm.
execution coming together to like make an awesome hockey player.
Good. Okay. Because Sharks gonna be right in this range
Yeah.
most likely. So unless they get a little bit of draft luck. But what is his time? I know WHL, you always almost kind of feel bad for some of these junior guys where they're almost like stuck, right? Where he's going to have to play in the WHL because of course with the agreement. So what do you think is his timeline before he is a impact NHL player, a guy where you're like, okay, we're starting to get to kind of what type of player Benson's going to round out to be?
I think I don't think there's any sense in rushing him forward.
Yeah.
Let him
He's not
physically
going to be in the
develop.
NHL next year.
No,
Yeah.
you're looking at like 2-3 years probably before he's like in pro doing
Mhm.
stuff, right? You never know though with players that have this level of sense. It's kind of tough, because this guy's adapted his whole life to play to overcome hurdles, and like present him with another hurdle. What's a guy that's overcome hurdles his whole life going to do? He's going to overcome a hurdle, right? Like
Yes.
so when it's tough to say. I would say just physically, because he is underdeveloped. He is years off, but
Yeah.
you're basically cooking a really good player in the oven regardless of where he's coming, right? And he's one of those guys that once he gets in the NHL, like he's going to be able to mesh with high sense players and perform, because he's been doing it his whole career. So yeah.
So you mentioned a high sense player in the Sharks, of course, drafted one of my favorite players, William Eklund, a couple seasons ago, and we know about William Eklund's hockey IQ. I know both are probably going to be wingers heading when they get to the NHL. Where do you kind of see Benson in the Sharks pipeline? I assume he's could cut the best player in their pipeline. Like, kind of where do you kind of see him, especially guys like Eklund and Bortolo playing with these guys?
Yeah, I think he'd be probably the top player in their pipeline. We were really massive fans of Eklund, but we were a little worried about his goal scoring, like just the lack of it.
Yeah.
But he's coming along, and he's a super fun player, and we're still pretty high on him. But I think Benson probably has the highest upside. Like I'm very upside oriented
Mhm.
um, scout, so I look for I kind of sacrifice a lot of like the floor and
Who cares about the floor, right? You can
yeah,
find a bunch of floor
yeah,
guys, right? Yeah,
yeah,
like you
right.
want to find you want to find good guys. So, um, you mentioned his upside. Like, what is his upside? Like, if he everything goes, he fixes his skating, he kind of matures, is physically matures the way you expect. What type of player could? Again, I know you don't like comps, but like, what type of player could Zach Benson turn out to be in the NHL?
Yeah, I think he could easily be a first line winger who impacts the game on both ends of the ice, right?
Mhm.
Like I said, I use Brayden Point as an example just because you're looking at two extremely smart players who have a lot of stride inefficiencies that learn to adapt to overcome everything.
A little bit smaller. Yeah.
Smaller. Like
Yep.
it just too much of the variables line up, right? Uh, and so that's kind of where I see it. I think, but he's definitely a top line player at the end of the day, I believe. He separated himself from a guy like Crystal,
Mhm.
Andrew Crystal, who um, has a lot of inefficiency in his game himself, but he doesn't have the defensive element that Benson has, right? And doesn't have the, just some of the off puck stuff. So, um, yeah, like I can't say enough good things about this guy. Like I already liked him, but when the last couple of days I've just been watching him in prep, and I'm just like, I wrote like 5 reports in our system. I was like, oh my god, some of these games are just nuts.
All right, guys. Before we finish up with Daniel, we talk kind of some bigger draft stuff. Kind of get his thoughts on this what's shaping up to be a really outstanding draft. Do want to let you guys know about our friends over at Athletic Greens. If you don't know about Athletic Greens by now, now is the perfect time. If you want to get more energy, you want better gut health, optimize your immune system, you don't want to take a bunch of pills and vitamins. This is the perfect way to start your day. 8 ounces of water and a scoop of their Athletic AG1. You're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, and probiotics and options to help start your day right. Great thing about it, lifestyle friendly. So it doesn't matter if you're keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free. Contains less than 1 sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything. It still tastes good, supports better quality sleep, supports mental clarity and alertness. So one of the best things about Athletic Greens is it provides the best products based on the latest science and consistent product iterations and third-party testing. And costs less than $3 a day. Investing in your health is cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's cheaper than going to the store and buying all the different supplements yourself. Investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. They're making it super easy right now. Go to athleticgreens.com/NHL network and get a free 1-year supply of their immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Oh, good. So yeah, I mean, this draft is, kind of getting to some of the bigger draft talk here, right? This draft, of course, we have Bedard, who's generational talent. You've got guys like Fantilli, who'd be first overall pick in 9 out of 10 drafts. Carlson, who could be a first round pick in majority of drafts. Michkov, who has an insane ceiling, but there's, I know he started to turn his game around. Who's kind of one guy that I know we're in February right now, but who's one guy maybe we're not talking enough about, or not, just we in general as hockey fans and stuff, who's kind of one guy that you're looking for, like think is going to start to rise as we get closer to the draft?
I know of one guy that will. It's Hanzik on the Vancouver Giants.
Okay.
He's enormous. He's enormous on ice, and he's super, super skilled. He's been out with an injury, and he got injured at the World Juniors, and he's missed a lot of time. I'm hoping he's back soon, but definitely mixing some viewings of him because I think he's a 6'4" C, right?
And
Like,
that's catnip.
yeah, yeah, like you know that teams are looking at him. Like, he had 43 points in 31 games before injury on a pretty poor Vancouver Giants team. He's a play driver. The stride isn't ideal with him too, but like the intangibles are nuts. I don't have a ton. I only have a couple viewings on him, and I can't really remember too much. But I just know that he's like an incredible passer, and he's huge. He's a guy that I could see in a lot of just surprise, and like the top 10 just picks him out, right? And everyone's going like, what? A guy I personally like is Riley Height.
Okay.
He plays in the city that I live in, so I've seen him since he was 16 years old. He's a smaller center. He's kind of like a low to medium pace player, but just so elusive. Could run an NHL power play right now. He's one of the top scorers in the WHL right now too. Really, really interesting player who has a lot of snarl and puck protection skills for someone who's a little smaller. So those are the two guys I think I really like. I don't know if the industry really loves Height, but I do think Samuel Honzik is someone that you should watch out for coming up.
All right. WHL, like, it's super loaded this year. Like, is Western hockey like just kind of taking over, or is it kind of like, I guess a bigger question, is it just more cyclical? Like, why do you think the WHL is just so loaded this year with the draft?
I think everything is cyclical in a sense, but
except for the Q.
Except for the Q. And don't ask David, our EP, about that. He's so upset about that. But we've known about this. Like even 2 years ago, like we knew there was the Savoy Geeky class, right? And we knew that class was good. But when we were watching games 2 years ago, we were seeing these 15, 16-year-olds absolutely dominate play. They're like the best players on their team. They're outshining draft eligible guys. And you're like, okay, we know this WHL class is crazy. But then you had players that kind of came out of nowhere, like Honzik, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like import draft guy comes over, and it's kind of wild. Like I do crossover, but since I'm in BC, like I just watch a lot of WHL games, and like it's almost like every week a top prospect's rolling through. And I went to 2 games last week, a Tuesday and a Wednesday game. 15 scouts at one game, 16 scouts at the other. So half the league is there watching these guys up in Prince George, BC, where there's a half a foot of snow right now.
Man. Yeah, I mean, this is the WHL is where it's at right now. We know the Sharks, they enjoy drafting their WHL guys too. So let me get you out of here on these last 2 questions. So 5 years from now, I'm still doing this podcast. Who is the best non-Connor Bedard player in the draft?
5 years from now?
Yep.
Oh, it's a tough one. I think Celebrini is one that is showing very well right now. Mm-hmm. But he's next year's, if that's what you meant.
No, I just meant from this draft,
non-Connor Bedard. It's probably going to be Fantilli. Fantilli is a pace monster. Like he's rangy. Mm-hmm. He's just engaged nonstop. He has all the skill in the world. He's putting up like an absolutely absurd freshman year, like as like an underage freshman too. Like it just like what? I don't have a ton of viewings of him, but I did some crossover work on him, and he's nuts. Like he is just.
He's gonna be very good.
I think he's a clear cut. He's a clear cut number 2 in this draft. There's just more skill, more pace to his game than a Carlson, and there's less risk than a Michkov, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you'd look back and you look at Fantilli as probably the second best player in this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean it seems like ever since World Juniors, he's kind of been on a little bit of a oh yeah, let me kind of show, type of situations.
Like at the start of the season, it was like this guy's like outpacing Eichel, right? And then
Yeah.
kind of dipped a bit, and then after World Juniors, he's been
just
back on that, right? Like,
Yeah, he's like burning it down the NCAA right now.
Yeah, and it's not just like Michigan's insanely good, right? But
Yeah.
he's a huge part of why they're insanely good.
All right, and then final question: where does Zach Benson go in the draft?
I think he will go 4th overall.
4th, so I assume ahead of Michkov.
Yeah, because there's a lot of risk with Michkov. I think Michkov is clearly the number 4 player, like in terms of quality. He could even be higher, honestly. You get paid to score goals, and that's what he does, right? But I think when teams hedge everything, what you get in Benson, the difference between having to wait and the lack of control that you have on the whole situation with Michkov, I think he probably goes 4, but he's undersized and a poor skater, and those are 2 cardinal sins for any NHL scout. Like typically you do not draft poor skating small players, but there's lots of intangibles that make it so it's not that. And he's not a poor skater too. I have to amend that a bit. He's skater. Just basically you want smaller players to be like just flying, right? Like that's typically the idea around it.
Yes.
The private sphere, like the industry, they really stick to their guns on a lot of those things. So I could see him going before Michkov. I think anywhere between 4 and 5 and 6, like he's probably there. Maybe Will Smith jumps in or Moore jumps in there if a team really likes him. We've seen the top 10s in their last drafts, and they've been very, very unpredictable, right? So we don't know. Like it's hard to tell. Teams get a bug in their ear about certain players, and they
it feels like 1, 2, and 3 are 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And then the draft's going to start at 4. It's going to be the fun part. So, all right, Daniel. Thank you very much. Where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter just type in Daniel G. You'll find me. It's Daniel G Scouting, and I'm on. I write Canucks related prospect articles for the Daily Hive, and then I do all draft stuff on Elite Prospects. So we'll have a draft guide out at the end of the year, and it's going to be really comprehensive, advanced stats, reports, everything like that. It's well worth the sub for 1 month to get it. Tons of work, just like thousands of hours to work.
Insane amount of like
video integration in it. Like it's
insane
from our meetings,
the amount of work you guys do on that. Yes, I enjoy it because especially after the Sharks player after the draft, like going through and like learning about especially kind of the back of the round guys that I've never heard of until the Sharks announced them. That's the fun part is learning about.
Yeah, and we watch everyone, right?
Everyone.
So, yeah.
So, Daniel, thank you very much, and we'll have you on again soon, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Daniel on Zach Benson. Again, feels like Benson could be a good chance that he might be in wearing teal by the end of the summer, just because where the Sharks are picking, where he is at in the draft order. And if the Sharks get Zach Benson, Brayden Point 2.0, that's going to take a little bit of time, but the Sharks could be lightning in a bottle here, hitting the lottery. Again, if you're picking 5, 6, 7, Zach Benson would be a hell of a consolation prize. So that's the kind of the theme of this draft, right? Is no matter who you're picking in the top 5, 6, 7, you're going to be getting an outstanding player. And the Sharks just need to keep doing what they're doing as they roll on towards hopefully a top 3 pick. But Zach Benson, though, if you get Zach Benson at 4, 5, 6, I think you're going to be feeling really, really happy in a couple of years. So that's going to do it for me today. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode, of course. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can listen wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music. Watch on YouTube as well. Thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Again, your team every day. Until tomorrow, bye, friends.